Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Aging gracefully is something that I always talk about, and oftentimes people take for granted that we are only referring to the insides, but we also have to consider what we are doing on the outside as well. So when we think about things such as our skin, when we think about our hair, we have to also be cognizant of what we are actually applying to our hair and to our skin, because there are so many different chemicals out there that are found in everyday health and beauty products that can be incredibly damaging to our overall wellness and can really interrupt our aging gracefully process. So I want to tell you all about what you can be doing and things that you should be looking for on today's episode. I am Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and let's get right to it. Let's talk about how in the United States, we know that there are over 10,000 different chemicals. That's right, chemicals. Over 10,000 different chemicals that are used in personal care products and different cosmetics. Now, what's really alarming is that roughly about 90% of those chemicals have never even been assessed by the FDA. So when you think about, well, how harmful can it be? We don't even know. But what we do know about the 10% of those chemicals that are commonly used, we're talking about things like parabens and phthalates. We know what damage they can do long term when it comes to being endocrine disruptors. And when we talk about endocrine disruption, what we are really referring to is how these chemicals seep into our bodies and really disrupt the normal process and flow of the way that hormones are released. And so we're not just talking about sex hormones. We certainly have been able to link cosmetic use and fertility issues in both men and women. But we can also look at other hormones that can be impacted by all of these thousands of chemicals that people are utilizing every single day. When you think about lotions, when you think about face wash, when you think about your shampoo and conditioner. So this is something that we are well versed on now. We don't know about a lot of those 10,000 chemicals that are used, but what we do know about the ones that have been researched is that they are doing damage to our systems. They are disrupting the adrenal hormone system, so your cortisol levels. It is disruptive to your pancreatic hormones. We talk about things like glucose and we talk about insulin. So even for blood sugar control, oftentimes people will probably never correlate back that maybe the shampoo that they've been using for the last 20 years is part of the reason why they may have a greater likelihood for the development of metabolic syndrome or type 2 diabetes, for example. But you have to be aware of these things. And we know that all of these harmful chemicals are things that we need to try to avoid if we want to successfully age gracefully. So we want to try and identify products that are free of alcohol and parabens and petroleum and fragrances. This is a huge one for me, is fragrance. Things that are free of sulfates and colorants. So when you use a shampoo or conditioner, it shouldn't come out and be, nuclear blue or purple. It shouldn't have these colors. That's unnatural. That means that they are piping in artificial synthetic chemicals to achieve that. Same thing when we look at fragrance. This is a huge one, and they do not need to declare what they are using to create that fragrance. Take, for example, you walk into any major big box store and you go into the shampoo, conditioner, lotion aisle, and people are oftentimes trying to, take the lids off and, take a quick smell and say, oh, this smells really nice. What exactly are you smelling? It is more than likely not coming from natural essential oils or plant-based material that is creating that scent naturally. No, a fragrance, quote unquote, is actually a chemical, a synthetic agent that is put into this product to yield you that scent, along with the colors and the alcohol and the parabens and all of those other harmful things, the phthalates, the things that we know for sure are creating endocrine disruption. And then when we think about our hair, for example, why would you want to be putting this onto your head if we know it has alcohol, if it has these things that are stripping the hair of its natural oils? We want to be able to utilize things that are from nature. And it would make sense that at this point in time, everyone should be aware of that you can utilize things like apple cider vinegar. You can use things like coconut oil and aloe. These are things that we can identify with. Most of us have seen a coconut throughout our lives. Most of us have seen an aloe plant at some point in time throughout our lives. Now, this makes a lot more sense than to use a whole slew of chemicals on your hair. It would make a lot more sense to say, you know what, I think I'm going to use avocado oil with some Dead Sea salt, along with nettle root extract and rosemary extract and sage and chamomile. These are all things that we can recognize. We can say, yeah, I've seen a rosemary plant before, or avocado is something that I have in my diet every single day. These are the things that we should also look towards when it comes to the application for our hair and for our skin, keeping in mind that your skin is the largest organ. And so anything that we apply to our skin is going to get absorbed into the body, and then the body has to contend with that in terms of detoxification. So the body doesn't have a hard time detoxifying from avocado oil because this is not a toxin. The body doesn't have to detoxify from utilizing apple cider vinegar because that is not a toxin. So this is why when it comes to aging gracefully, we don't want to overlook what we do every single day, or at least multiple times throughout the week for many people when it comes to shampooing and conditioning their hair. When you have natural alternatives that is free of all of those harmful chemicals, and you're utilizing things that you can look at the bottle and you can say, yes, I know what vitamin C is. Yes, I know what peppermint oil is. Things that we recognize, that we understand. Because many people use these on a daily basis in their foods. And you may think, well, why would I then put food on my hair? We're utilizing those wonderful oils, those rich nutrients, those vitamins and minerals and antioxidants to help in terms of not only creating a healthier balance of natural oil production, in terms of balancing the pH of the scalp as well as the hair, all of these things. And green tea. We know green tea is so beneficial when it comes to skincare, when it comes to hair care. So the base of a shampoo containing green tea is very advantageous. So if you look at our website and you go to our shampoo and conditioner, you're going to see that our shampoo contains green tea extract. We have coconut oil in this. We have vitamin C and peppermint oil and sage and rosemary and all of these wonderful nutrients. I always say you can look at it like you can walk through a beautiful garden and you can see all of these wonderful plants and herbs. And you take a bunch of all of those and you blend it all up and you put it into a bottle and you apply it to your hair. Or you can walk into a real cold, dingy type of a warehouse where there's all of these chemical bins and you say, okay, which ones do I select to put in the bottle to then put on my head? Well, most people aren't going to want to do that. They're going to say, no, I think I'm going to go with the things that I recognize. And this is so important because for many people, even if you are on that wellness path, this might be an area that you've completely overlooked. And I always say it's not only that we know that these can be harmful in terms of endocrine disruption, all these synthetic chemicals that are put into everyday shampoos and conditioners that you find at your big box stores. But you have to think about the other impacts and think about as you're sudsing up your head with that shampoo. And it creates that scent that maybe that's why you bought it in the first place, because you really liked the smell of it. But now you're breathing that in. So what are you breathing in? Are you breathing in natural things? No, you are breathing in synthetic chemicals. This is why we have to be proactive in our own health. We want to be able to minimize our exposure to harmful things. We want to utilize things that come from nature, like Dead Sea salt and using peppermint oil to help to stimulate the scalp. Utilizing rosemary that really helps to support the silkiness of the hair. And we know that the apple cider vinegar does a really fine job in terms of the removal of different impurities. So in combination, when we put all of these different herbs together and we're leaving out all of those big bins of chemicals, then we can feel really good about what we're doing on our path to wellness. And same thing when you're using a conditioner. We want to make sure that we're using a conditioner that once again is mimicking nature. So you can walk yourself through that beautiful garden again, or you can go stand in line at that big dingy warehouse with all of those chemical bins and just go by and say, okay, I think I'm going to pick from that bin and this bin and this bin and put all those chemicals into that bottle. I'm going to go home and put it on my head. Or you walk through the beautiful garden and you select things like lemongrass, and we get the oils from that lemongrass. We use chamomile. Most people know chamomile because chamomile tea. But chamomile is very beneficial for hair health, even for maintaining the, healthy color of your hair. Vitamin E is very, very nourishing to our hair. And we think about the hair follicles, and what's underneath the hair is what? Our scalp. So we're talking about skin again. We don't want to be putting harmful agents onto our skin that gets absorbed in. We don't want to be breathing those in. So when it has that fragrance, that's not a good thing because we don't know what that fragrance is actually made of. And that's just not a risk that people should be willing to take nowadays when you have so many other options out there to utilize when it comes to washing your hair every day and conditioning your hair. Things that are going to be nourishing not only to the hair itself, but deeper into that follicle, as well as for your scalp. So for me, this is something that I recognized quite a while ago. And I have been so happy that I made that transition to see the difference in the health of my hair over the past 10 years is really, really remarkable. And you think to yourself, okay, you have all these different beauty products out there, and they're all touted to be so great, for growing the hair and strengthening the hair and the shine of the hair. But you have to take a step back and say, well, how is that being achieved? This is being achieved because of all of those chemicals, where I would rather utilize things such as the peppermint oil and avocado and coconut that can also give hair its sheen and give hair that healthy look. At the same time, it's not stripping your hair of color. It's not stripping your hair of its nice, healthy appearance. So there's a lot of different options. But nowadays, many people are having more of a realization that, oh wow, I never realized that all of these chemical agents that are found in shampoos and conditioners may actually be damaging to my health. Maybe this can impact my fertility later down the road. Maybe this is going to create an issue where 10 years from now, I end up with developing some type of a hormonal imbalance and never realizing it came from my shampoo or conditioner. But the more that we realize about our wellness and the more that we recognize that we control a lot of that, we control what we apply to our hair, to our skin. We can't control the air, obviously. So when it comes to environmental pollutants and things like that, we don't have a lot of control over much of that. But we do have control over how we handle and mitigate that. And so we don't want to add insult to injury by breathing in all of these pollutants, and that pollutant is ending up on your hair and your skin, And then we go and we wash our hair and our skin with chemicals. It's defeating that purpose. And as I mentioned, here in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration isn't even assessing 90% of those chemicals found in everyday use cosmeceuticals, such as shampoos and conditioners and lotions. In Europe and the EU, they have been rigorously assessing these, and they've been able to identify how harmful, how much endocrine disruption ability so many of these chemicals have. So the more we know, the better off we are in terms of achieving our goal of aging gracefully. And at the end of the day, that is what matters so much. We want to always do what we can in terms of helping ourselves and helping at that cellular level, helping within the skin, helping within the hair. And now we know that there are things out there, such as our shampoo and our conditioner, that utilize all of these nutrients from nature. So it gives you that clean, natural option. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Do make sure that you subscribe and leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.